Now, when I first heard about these 4 shocking emotions that we have all been pushing away, I knew that I had to share it with you in the community. Hi, and welcome to today's coaching session. In our daily lives, we will experience a myriad of emotions, and not all of those emotions are very pleasant. I'm here to tell you that there are 4 emotions that we really need to pay attention to in order to grow. There is wisdom in our feelings, and not just the good ones. And many of us have been taught that negative feelings need to be managed away. But at their core, these unpleasant feelings have evolved to teach us something. Now, Meadow DeVor is an author of a book called The Worthy Project, and she has characterized these 4 emotions as fear, guilt, anger, and sadness. We avoid them, we shove them away, we dismiss them, and we hide them. But these emotions are the gateway to self-discovery and healing. When you allow yourself to experience them, you and your self-worth will bloom. Now, the first is fear. This is experienced as anxiety, worry, and FOMO, or fear of missing out. These are all offshoots of fear. These emotions are trying to protect us. Fear and anxiety are an appropriate response to a lack of resources. This is a signal to get clear on what's being threatened. Fear is felt when our safety is threatened. Our ancestors from long ago developed a fight or flight response in order to preserve their lives. In the world that we live in today, though, it probably seems like our bodies are overreacting when we feel like we might die because we have to speak in public, or when we freeze, when we feel anxious about a looming deadline or an awkward conversation we have to have. Whether this is a fear of missing out, or a fear of being hurt emotionally, or a fear of not having enough resources, fear is an emotion that is trying to teach us that we need to protect those resources. When we feel those feelings and we shove them away, we are not honoring the gift of fear. What resources are being threatened? Is it your worth, your time, your self-respect, your integrity, or your money? Now, the question to ask here is this: what is really worth defending? Honor is worth defending. Integrity, worth defending. Even your money is worth defending. But our anxiety is often felt when we feel our sense of self is being threatened because we are comparing ourselves to other people. Now, this is probably the number one problem with my clients. If you are feeling anxiety because you're not thin enough, or you're not as successful as so-and-so, or you feel like you're missing out on something, that's a signal that your values need to maybe be looked over again. Now, there is wisdom in exploring the root cause of your anxiety and fears. Defending your sense of self that is reflected back to you based on what others think and what others have is not a worthy fight. Might be time to let that one go. Now, the next emotion is shame or guilt. Now, shame and guilt are being lumped together for the purpose of making this really simple, but let me be clear. Shame and guilt are not the same thing. They are 2 distinct emotions, but the core is from the same place. One of my favorite researchers and authors, Brene Brown, has wisely showed the whole world that shame and guilt are not the same. Shame is the feeling that you are bad. Guilt is the feeling that you have done something bad. There's a big difference. But they often play off of each other, and they both will keep you stuck. But why do we feel shame and guilt? The purpose and function of guilt and shame is to keep you from disconnecting from important relationships. Shame and guilt evolved to help you repair a lost connection. Now, I don't know about you, but I have had this where I've unintentionally hurt someone, and then I felt really guilty and even felt shame. What was your first instinct? My guess that yours was the same as mine, and it was to pull away and to hide from the person and avoid them at all costs so that I don't have to feel that shame and that guilt. We would do almost anything to avoid this feeling. This is the emotion that is most commonly prone to lead to a distracted state. A distracted state keeps you stuck so that you avoid repairing those connections because it's uncomfortable. But we need to grow up a little and repair those connections. Now, the last is anger, and this can be experienced as anger, frustration, and it's a signal that there has been a boundary violation. There is wisdom in the anger that we feel. If we ignore these feelings, we will move boundaries in order to accommodate others when it is not appropriate to do so. This is when you lose yourself. Anger festers and becomes hatred, fury, and rage when it is repressed. It is most commonly felt as resentment. It wants you to protect your valuable resources. I'm going to ask you a tough question right now. When do I repress these negative emotions so that I appear more likable? That first itch of anger is just enough heat to ask for what is fair and protect your rightful boundaries. Of course, we don't want to live in a state of anger and rage all the time. I'm not saying that. But a little fire under us to make us aware of when a boundary has been breached needs to be paid attention to, and that is where the wisdom lies. Shoving anger away and pretending that it doesn't exist is a surefire way to have an implosion or an explosion later on. Now, the last of these 4 emotions is sadness. Feeling bummed, hurt, experiencing grief, or feeling lonely, that's sadness. It's the feeling that comes up when you lose something of value. Sadness evolved to help you cope with letting go. Now, loss is painful. Sadness is an invitation to receive. Sadness wants you to seek comfort, caretaking, and help. It's a natural response to loss. We all experience loss. So to repress the feeling that naturally comes because of loss would be a betrayal to the natural process of healing. When you repress sadness, you miss the cues to slow down and recover. We recently watched WandaVision as a family, and there was a quote that really stopped both Steve and I in our tracks. Paul Bettany's character says, "What is grief, if not love persevering?" Anyone who has lost a loved one can relate to this. When we honor our feelings of sadness, we honor the experience of why we felt that sadness. It teaches us to hold on to what is dear and let love persevere, even though the person or the experience is over. I know that many of these emotions and their combinations can be difficult to bear. It takes a lot of maturity and elegance to sort through these feelings without letting them fester and become a monster that you can't quite get off your back. Now, you may have heard of Marie Kondo. She's a Japanese woman who has developed a process of simplifying your life by eliminating all that clutter. I use her philosophy in my coaching business about every single day. Now, you can hold the emotion that makes you uncomfortable, like it's a physical object, in your hands. And what I do is I have my clients hold it close, and you honor that wisdom that came from the experience, however awful it was, and send it back out into the universe. I literally have my clients say, "Thank you for what you have taught me, shame, guilt, anger, sadness, fear, or the specific experience. I don't need your help anymore. I got this." And you hold on to the memory, and you hold on to the wisdom that it brought, and you let go of that monkey on your back. Now, I hope that you were able to recognize how these 4 uncomfortable and even shocking emotions play a role in your emotional health to help teach you and guide you through this crazy thing called life. Remember, when you feel one of these emotions pop up, welcome it in, honor the wisdom that came with it, and send it right back into the universe for someone else to use and learn from. I'm so glad that you tuned into today's coaching session. Please give this video a like and share with the people in your life who need to know that their feelings have wisdom. I'm so glad to have you as a subscriber in my community, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.